Thanks for joining our meeting tonight. As we've started doing more recently, the people that I will use the term old timers who've been here many times to our meeting. We're not introducing ourselves, but we could later in the meeting, maybe when we share an update. But if there are people who are newer to the meeting, either new to this meeting or have only been to a meeting or two, and you would like to introduce yourself with your name and either your hub or general neighborhood area, if you're still figuring out your hub area, we'd love to have you introduce yourselves. And you could either raise your hand. Pete, I saw you raise your hand. You can raise your hand on Zoom or you can just unmute and dive in. Go ahead, Pete.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. This is Pete Mills, and I'm in the Belltown neighborhood and just took over the Olympic Sculpture Park hub. So there's my learning. So
Great. Thank you very much. Let's see, who else do we have that might want to jump in and introduce yourselves? Great. Zimina, could you tell us if I said that correctly or there's a better way to say it?
I say it Jimena, like
Jimena.
Mexico, like
Okay.
yeah.
Jimena, thank you.
Yes. So I'm very familiar with what the hubs network. We are connected with the hub in Queen Anne. My husband is the captain, but he's not home yet. He's working on refrigeration, so I decided to jump in, and I see a lot of this communication going on, but I wanted to get more active.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us, Simona. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
And we also say at some point, if you want, you can go to the participants list in Zoom and add in the name of your hub. I see some people have done that. If you would like to do that, everybody that's here, that would be great. Somebody raised their hand. Was that you, Carrie? Oh, no, Amy. Okay, Amy.
Yeah, I'm Amy. I'm brand new to this, and I'll be working with the Alki Hub.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Anyone else who wants to introduce themselves?
I'm Carrie. I'm with the Montlake Hub where we just received our grant, so we're just getting started. We have a urban survival skills fair on the 25th of this next month. So
okay, great. Nice to meet you all. Anyone else that wants to introduce themselves tonight? No? Okay. I see there's still some people clicking on the Zoom link, so probably still a few more people rolling in. Okay, we started the recording. Anne, would you be next, starting with the leadership restructure?
Yes, thank you. No slides for this, so I'm just going to talk. So brief background. We decided late last year to restructure the hub network so that it so much doesn't rely on Cindi and I. The leadership team is a little broader. We've got a little bit more depth, more of a bench. Yeah, that's a big part of it. Is just, and also if we get more people involved in the leadership roles, we can grow and expand. So we're just not so restricted. So decided to do that. We put together a thought group. The thought group met, came up with a structure. We presented that, I believe it was January of this year. And so the thought group said, let's put together a transition team. The transition team met, getting lost. But anyway, the structure is going to be a steering committee and 6 teams. Each of those teams will have a lead. So we're in the process of interviewing folks for those team lead positions. Once those are all decided, those 6 people, once we've because folks, it's way more confusing than you would think, but some people wanted to be on a team and wanted to lead a team, or they wanted to lead more than one team. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to figure out, based on what we know about these folks, what skills are they best suited for and what team do we need them on? So it's a lot of juggling around and trying to figure out the best fit for everybody and doing some interviews to figure out who might be the best fit for some of these positions. So our plan is to roll out the slate of the team leads, those 6 people, as soon as we can. I can't promise that it's going to be in a month. It might be 2 months. I don't know. But we'll roll them out as a group at the same time. And then those team leads will be involved in choosing their team members. And then, frankly, the real work starts of trying to divvy out the work that's being done by Cindi and I now and a couple other folks, trying to divvy it out a little bit differently, and also getting some of these new teams up and running with functions that we aren't currently doing, like development. So anyway, very exciting stuff. What else? Gabrielle, Linda, Mark, Erica, any thoughts? What did I forget?
I don't think so. I guess I will. One thing I will add is behind the scenes, in addition to, trying to get we're trying to get the leads together, we are meeting and discussing the process. There are things happening, but it's all kind of behind the scenes as we work through.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I've been asked by a couple folks, just to be a little bit more transparent, and I'm sorry if it feels like we're being secretive. We certainly don't mean to. We are meeting and we are trying to figure all this stuff out. I think it's a shame we only have one update a month, based on the deep dive or the HubCap meeting. But anyway, stuff is moving. If you volunteered to lead a team, you should be hearing from us very soon. I think that's all I've got right now for that one.
Any questions for Ann on that? General questions about the process that we are currently in? No? Okay, I don't see any hands up or any Zoom hands. So let me just check the chat. Okay, no, I don't see any questions there. All right, so we will move on to the next item, which is the hub drill. And again, that reverts back to Ann. Thanks, Ann.
Thanks, Gabrielle. So typically we like doing the large network drill early in the summer. June is ideal. We needed to back up the June drill to a later date for 2 reasons. Number one, we didn't think the city of Seattle would give us the money for the grant that we wrote if our drill was too close. They're worried about us not having enough time to do a good job. And they're right. So we backed up the drill for that reason. And also maybe if we have it a little bit later in the summer, we can get some of these teams and these team leads involved in planning and seeing more about how this is all done. So anyway, we've backed it up. Shoot, I was supposed to talk to somebody, Chris Paulus, today. The August 22nd was we started with June 7th. We backed away from that. We went to August 22nd. August 22nd doesn't work for 2 of the 4 sites. So, God, I need to do this. I'm going to make the call and I'm going to say August 15th. August 15th works for all 4 sites. It's not ideal for Capitol Hill because the 16th is their skills fair. They had a meeting last night. I don't see Chris on the call. He was going to talk
Kurt's on. Maybe Kurt's got it up.
Kurt? I don't see you, Kurt, but I'm sure you're here
Greg
somewhere.
K.
Oh, there we go. Kurt, can you hear me? Maybe he stepped away. So Capitol Hill folks got together last night. Chris was going to talk to them and see if what's their thinking about being able to support kind of back-to-back events. A drill on Saturday and a skills fair on Sunday. As any of you know that have been involved in skills fairs, they're quite a bit of work. It's a long long, difficult day. But the reason for pivoting to August 15th, which is a Saturday, is Roosevelt can't do it on the 22nd. Their church is tied up with a big event. And if we do it on the 15th, it really helps out Rainier Beach because their community area is already blocked off for by another organization. So they don't have to go through the hassle of closing down the street. It's kind of already done. So the 15th benefited two hubs. And I'm hoping Capitol Hill can still support the Madison Valley site. So sorry, guys.
There's a note in chat from Kurt said he's
Okay.
having a hard time getting everything working online for him. He says they are working on finding a new date place.
Oh,
So thank you guys for being considerate and seeing if you can help with that.
yeah, great. I did not expect that answer. Kurt, thank you. And Chris, if you were on, thank you. And thanks to all the Cap Hill folks. I will, if Kurt can't get his camera working or his audio working, I'll touch base with Kurt as soon as the meeting's done and find out a little bit more. So
does that mean we're confirmed still for the 15th of August?
yes.
Okay.
That's a go. That's a firm go.
That is a firm go.
Regardless of what Cap.
Well,
if Cap Hill stays the same, I guess the message for everybody is if we have to do back-to-back dates, please all hub captains be willing to consider to come help Capitol Hill with their skills fair.
Yeah. So the drill could become a really good promoting event for the skills fair because they are back to back like that. Interesting.
Yeah, but that just means that everybody in Capitol Hill has a full weekend of double duty.
Yeah.
Right. So if we could spell them for anything, so it's not so onerous on them, that would be helpful.
Yeah. So Saturday, August 15th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. are the hours for the public. So if you think you're going to be volunteering at one of these sites, I would plan on a 9 a.m. show up time to get the hub up and running, but 10 to 1 for the public. We wanted to do it as early in the day as we could just because we're now into August and we don't want to be too warm. If we get the grant, each of the sites has money to buy lunch for the volunteers, or at least a snack and some beverages, not for the public, but for the volunteers. What are the sites? Thanks, Todd. So there's 4. I should have brought up the map, but the north end, there's only one in the north end, and that's going to be at Roosevelt's Hub, which is a really short walk from the light rail station. Pretty decent parking because we're in a parking lot. The church that the hub sits next to is going to give us access to the parking lot. They're not going to charge for parking that day, and they allow us to close off one of the entrances in the parking lot and barricade some of the spots so we know exactly where the hub canopies will go. So Roosevelt is the north site. Moving down, the central east site is MLK Fame, which is in Madison Valley. That's the central east sector. Southeast is Rainier Beach Community Club. Ron Angelus's hub has been there for quite a while. And then the southwest, Cindy's area, West Seattle, is going to be at Morgan Junction, Cindy?
Yeah, we have a West Seattle Hub Captains meeting on August 8th. So it's like 95% going to be at Morgan, but, leave it open. If somebody wants to step up and do their own site, that's fine. But we'll know within 2 weeks.
Okay, nice. You said August 8th. I hope you didn't mean that.
April 8th, sorry.
Okay, good. I'm like, wow,
you're
really
cutting
it close.
I've been flipping through the pages trying to keep up here.
Okay, so any other questions about the hub drill? We're trying to keep down your commute time by having them pop up in 4 places. And
Are
I
there
checked with,
options to expand it?
we can talk. Sure. Are you thinking about setting up another hub, man?
Well, just our hub participating, since I have so much interest from the community that,
You
by that
do.
time we could probably put something together on our own.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, let's talk. And then, so I checked with ACS. The 15th is a pretty good day. There is an event that some of the ACS members do. It's called Bigfoot. It's around Mount Rainier. There's a big bike ride,
Mount St.
marathon. I don't
Helens.
know. Mount St. Helens. Okay. Anyway, there are a few ACS members that go do that, but it's not all of them. So I think we'll be okay. Catherine seemed to think it would work okay. Okay. ACS. Thanks, Susie. ACS is the Auxiliary Communication Service. ACS folks are ham radio operators that train to support the city of Seattle post-disaster. So really strong ham radio operators, and they help the city communicate when everything else has gone to heck. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Anne. Any last questions? I don't see any hands, and I think the questions in that chat already got answered. Okay. We'll move along. The next item, and you can see why we're trying to expand our leadership team, is again going to be Anne. Tour of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. So tell us about that, Anne.
Yeah. So I reached out to, it's a lab, it's a seismology lab at the University of Washington, reached out to them and said, could we have a tour of your facilities? They do this all the time for schools and that kind of stuff. I think it's safe to say they were pretty darn excited. I was a little worried about asking for them to do it after hours because typically they do this during hours, but they are willing to take a group of us through their tour, through their facility next. So in place of the deep dive, it will be at 6 o'clock, I think. I'm going to send more out about this. I think I put it for 6 o'clock, not 7 o'clock. It is rather limited. I'm going to ask and see if they'll do back-to-back tours. I think that might be a stretch, but I'm going to ask. They can only do 25 people at a time, and I don't know how many folks would be interested in that.
That's the 23rd, Anne. Is that the correct date that I have there? The third Thursday?
Yes, 23rd. Yeah. So in place of the deep dive. So more to come on that. And like I said, if we get overrun with enthusiasm, then I will reach out and see if they can't do back-to-back tours. The reason I say they're excited is that Harold Tobin, who is the person in charge, is going to be there and wanted to be there. So thought that was kind of cool. Yeah. So that's it on that one. More to come in just a little bit.
Harold has spoken at several Hub sponsored events, so he's a good friend.
He's a fan. Yeah. Thanks.
Any questions on that? No.
That was April 23rd. That was a question in chat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. April 23rd.
All right. Next item, Cindi, report from Japan trip.
Yep. So I'm going to share my screen, and I always have a problem that I can't get to presentation mode. There we go. Okay.
There you go.
So this is going to be a speed date because I can't do the deep dive next month because of the tour, right? So I went, while it's fresh in my brain, I'm going to cram through. I saw so much on this trip, but I'm really trying to pull out the things that perk your guys' interest. And you'll understand as I go through why there's so many differences, but there's still some great things we can learn. So I was invited, the hub, they paid for one person from the hubs and was going to be able to try to go and just couldn't make it. So I went and represented the hubs, and it was the day started with a conference for women leaders in a group called WAsafe Leaders. And in the city of Sendai, Japan, those are the community leaders responsible for emergency preparedness, or what they call risk reduction. So it started with the women who, just on the whole social and cultural thing, the women are working hard to get to leadership positions. So it was a knowledge exchange. And then as the day wore on, we switched more over into the community side. And so they gave a presentation on what they do at their response sites, and I gave a hub presentation, what we do at our response sites. And it was interesting that my host was able to translate it. So as I talked and she interpreted, they had the words on the screen in Japanese. So that was an interesting experience. And so just Ron and I went. Ron went because you'll see a little bit about ham radio later. We went to our host took us for a whole week. We went to multiple places where they are looking at the impacts of what happened during the tsunami and the memorials that have been established. And I'll talk more about that. This is all kind of the agenda. We got to have a one-on-one with the leaders of their, what they call evacuation shelters and what they do in around risk reduction. And the school was where we actually got some hands-on stuff. And as you can suspect, in earthquake country, they're very far advanced and different than the United States. A lot of it has to do with it happens all the time. It influences their policies. It influences their spending. And their government support is very different than ours. So it's always been hard for us. We've been working with several years to have a conference where you guys could meet with their people, but the baselining was just so hard to figure out how to do, but we might be able to move past that now. So the big cultural stuff I'll touch on a little bit, just so you understand when I say what it looks like, what lies behind that. Oops, my mouse does this to me. And the impact, they've had multiple earthquakes. The really big ones make a big shakeups in policies. And the Great East Japan earthquake, they were not prepared for. They were ready for earthquakes. They were not ready for the tsunami. And so how the emergency response looks both in structure, and I got some pictures of what that kind of plays out on the field. And then I'll summarize the takeaways. So the cultural differences, and remember, I only got 15 minutes, so I'm going to blaze through this stuff. The cultural differences are baked into that culture. And their cultural differences are, America is the Wild West. We're all individuals. We love our individualism. Japan is a culture of everything for the greater good. It's community-based. It's communal-based. Very different. But that allows them to put in the structure that they have put in. Japan is also very heavily tied by community. And, rural Japan grew into these major centers, but rural Japan, that structure in the hierarchy of you and your neighbors work together on the farm, or you and your neighbors work together in the small businesses, or you and your neighbors work together in the urban centers, still persists. And you will just be shocked when I show you how that looks in the city of Sendai. And they also have this ongoing cultural preparedness. It was before the Great East Japan earthquake, and it's even more now. So the story, what you're looking at here, is I'm standing in line in the 7-Eleven to go to the bathroom. All the 7-Elevens have bathrooms. It's fantastic. And I'm just standing looking at this, rack of stuff, and I go, what? Panda in a can, please tell me no. So I get out the Google phone and, I'm standing in the store and I'm going, milk bread. So my host comes by and I go, what's in this can? And she goes, oh, that's bread. It's for your disaster kit. This rack is the disaster preparedness rack in every 7-Eleven. So you can go in and, when you start looking, you go, oh, there's the gas containers. Oh, so you can go into any 7-Eleven and replenish your go bag. One of the things that they sell, and I had an interesting learning here, is these bags of rice. And they sell them in the museums, they sell them in the 7-Elevens, they sell them everywhere. And the label, I'm pointing at my screen with my finger, sorry. The label tells you if you have hot water, this rice will be ready in 15 minutes. If you don't have hot water, it will be ready in 60 minutes. So it's prepared in a way that it's still fully processed, cooked, edible, within 60 minutes. So out of curiosity, I've been going to Wajimaya and also the Daiso stores that we have here in Seattle, which is like the dollar store for Japanese stuff. And I found the same rice in my dollar store, and it is the same thing. It doesn't have that label, but you read on the back and it says, fill it with cold water and it'll be ready in 60 minutes. So I found a cool new addition for all our bags and also our demonstration tables of what to put in your Go Kit. So one takeaway with this is they have some really cool stuff. But that cultural preparedness is what was really notable. So a couple of slides just about what is on the ground these days. So that impact is huge. It is they are committed to not forget what happened. And everywhere you go around these memorials or just on the landscape, there are markers and memorials everywhere so people don't forget. And I'll show a couple of the pictures. I'm going to talk the slide and then show pictures a little bit. We visited several schools. This first one is about a half a mile from the coast. Everybody evacuated to the top floors. And that means not just the kids, but the neighbors who were supposed to evacuate to that building because it was designated as an evacuation center. The water got up to the second floor. So everybody had to stay on the third floor and fourth floor and roof. And they were airlifted out because the water still wasn't receding. This is Ron standing in front of it, and it shows the marker of how high the waves were. So this was the good story. The bad stories were the story on the left-hand side. This was a school 2.5 miles inland, but it was on a very shallow delta, and the tsunami roared up, and 74 out of 79 children were killed. And the man in the picture stands in front of the memorial of the school as many days as he can. His son lived and is so guilty because he lived, because the reason he lived is because he disobeyed the teachers and went up that hillside behind him. So all he had to do was go up 15 feet, and he was able to snag 3 of the 4 other survivors out of the water and pull them up with him. But this man goes there every day to be able to say, we cannot forget. We have to have better processes. We have to make sure everybody is trained to do the right thing. The teachers at the school got the kids out on the playground, do regular earthquake evacuation. They could hear sirens. They couldn't tell what was going on, and the principal was not there. And so they were afraid to take action, or were not clear what action to take. So that is part of the lessons. That is part of the policies that drive what's going on in the school systems now. A third place we visited was a school where people evacuated to the center. They were in the gym in the back. When the tsunami hit, it brought burning debris and lit the school on fire. So they had to evacuate again further up the hill. And in that plain, that's a little bit further inland, but it's on the coast. This building, that is the height of the wave. And so the other changes that have happened with infrastructure are the hill over on this side. There are multiple new evacuation hills, like what we're building on our Washington coast, places where people can, if you couldn't get far inland far enough because it's a very flat coastal plain, there are hills you can now escape to. So in some of the memorials, this one on the left-hand side, I know you can't really read it, but these 2 things really say what's going on. The people in charge, feel tremendously guilty that they knew that those were tsunami areas. They had Shinto markers in the landscape, ancient markers that said, do not build in this area, or do not build past this point. And they ignored them. They did. And then when the tsunami hit, they realized that was a voice from the past trying to tell them to not make the same mistakes. So everywhere you see, don't forget the sacrifice. Don't forget the children who died. The picture here is a teacher, an English teacher from the East Coast who happened to be in the city. And she got caught outside the school and she perished. And a man whose children, also from one of the nearby schools, his children died, and he did not know what to do. They're just devastated. And he decided he was going to build bookcases for children. And so the family and the local response people decided what they would do is they would put in book corners so people could learn English and learn history, there's focus there. And they called them Taylor Anderson book corners. And so they have gone in every school, and every student understands who Taylor Anderson is and why that book corner is there. So it just gets ingrained and built in. So I was going to make this fancy and have stuff float in, but you can see it all at one thing. In just trying to relate how government supports there different than ours, you've got a federal level, you've got kind of a region, which is equivalent to our state. You have a prefecture, which is kind of our county. So Sendai was where I was at. It's the capital of the prefecture. 1.1 million. We're at about 800,000. So, close within spitting distance. They have got some administrative groups, wards within their city, which we don't have here in Seattle. Look at the number of neighborhood associations they have. I mean, I wish Chris Paulus was on so I could hear him gasp. We've got maybe 40 at the most. And this is that outcome of the groupings of people who grow up together, who, geographically, there was not a lot of mobility for many years. And neighborhood associations have just been a thing for a very long time. So they decided to leverage those neighborhood associations. Each neighborhood association was asked to send someone in to be trained to be the community leader. Neighborhood associations typically do things like they organize the trash pickups. They're not big political groups. They're really around making your neighborhood be as interconnected as possible. And they often look out for the children and the elders in their communities in that same way. So Sendai's whole program is structured off the connectiveness of the neighborhood associations and the training of the WAsafe leaders. Lots of words, going to try and explain it really quick. When I have my notes of the day we spent at a school to go, so what do you do? The WAsafe leaders are assigned to a school, and there may be a couple WAsafe leaders working at one school. So the school I went to is an evacuation center for 4 neighborhoods who have children in there, plus several other neighborhoods who just are geographically nearby. Their kids may go, the kids may go to different places depending on what boundary you live on. But basically 7 neighborhoods are going to evacuate to this school, and all the students who are in the school are going to stay there. And then when they're in the building, what immediately happens is the WAsafe leaders in the school set up a headquarters up on the 3rd floor, and they start distributing the equipment into the gym and getting ready for evacuees to show up. They're taking care of the kids. As the evacuees come in, they are broken out into their neighborhood groups so people can account for each other. You can go, old Mrs. Smith is missing, has anybody seen her? And the children are given to the parents as soon as the parents show up. So on the 2nd floor, you might have these 3 community neighborhood associations and their students. But up on the 4th floor, if you have any students who don't have their parents showing up, the teachers are required to stay and take care of the students. When we talked with this group, this is the 2 pictures of the crowd are the vice principal. This is a person from the University of Washington. This is one of my hosts. This is the neighborhood leader. This is another researcher. This is the city representative, and this is Mrs. Ochi, the WAsafe leader. And so I got a lot of laughs at, I would go, how do you have so much energy? And they're laughing and they're kind of going, yeah, you too, right? So it was a lot of fun to meet them. But this group of people is responsible for what goes on at that school and how they evacuate, how they self-align, and then how they run the shelter. So the school stores all the supplies that they need. Now, one interesting thing is Japan doesn't have cots. Hey, stupid computer. Doesn't have cots, but they have partitions because they found out during the earthquake that privacy was a big thing. So people would rather sleep on the floor with blankets and have privacy than have cots taking up a lot of room. And then cots don't let children snuggle to their parents. It was like they just have shifted to the way that makes sense for their families and the way they want to live. They had generators stored, they had heaters stored, they had everything. And the school is also the primary link, and I'll show you that equipment here in a second, of communication back to the city. Here's how many we have. Here's what's going on, so at least the city can get that information. Another thing that they have done with their policies and their money is improving infrastructure. And so every school now has this little blue hydrant over there on the left that is not pressurized, so anybody can turn it on. It's in a hardened system. And then the picture in the middle is from one of their actual exercises. The blue pipe runs into it, and they set up a distribution, and water buckets are filled 4 or 5 at a time from that water piping. So I'm like, God, like that's just so genius. And then the secondary thing is there are standing orders with water trucks. So as soon as if you have a tsunami and the water recedes, or as soon as you can get the trucks on the road, they have standing contracts to go check each school and see if they've got the water source that they need. If not, they backfill it with the water truck. And then the picture here is I had to take the picture off the computer because we were having, it was too hard to do a lot of dialogue. And so it's a picture of the solar panels they put on, and I got to move you people out of the way, and how it powers the lights, how it powers the internet connectivity. The school principal in that picture I showed you where I said that's the vice principal, she has the sat phone sitting behind her, and they test it once a week. And then the second system that they set up is a cell structure so that people can call out. And I said, well, they don't use ham radio very much because they have done so much to make their communications structure robust. Matt?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the water source for the blue hydrant. You said it's not pressurized, but does that mean that they need to turn it on themselves when they...
That means they can't. Here in Seattle, we've talked to the water department about why can't we just use the tap off the regular fire hydrants? Well, because they're pressurized, and it's dangerous to try to open those. I know we see pictures
there
every
is
year.
Water.
Pardon?
There is water there?
Yeah. It's just
Okay.
not under pressure. Like our water fire hydrants are under pressure. Detail.
Okay.
Let me get through this and we can talk later. So they have hedged their bets. They store a lot of supplies at the school, but they have duplicates at the local firehouse. So if something happens, there's still some materials available for people. And so I'm really talking about this part down here. At every school, the students see every day the picture of their BOSI leaders so that they know who the people are who are going to show up on the day of a disaster. And so they've got familiarity. And Mrs. Ochi runs the drills for them. And they have a differentiation between an elementary school, you do certain level of drills. Middle school and high school, you're actually participating in more advanced, scary type drills, and you are doing things in the drill. So they've scaled their discussion appropriate for the students, but it starts in, I don't think they talked to me about preschool, but it definitely starts in the first school. And then this is a shot of their new style of toilets that they've started stocking. So everything is done by the BOSI leaders and the community, with the expectation that government's not going to be there. And then once the parents arrive at the shelter, I talked about how the kids join them. This is the gym, and they were showing us where the parent cell phone plugs in, where the connections to the generators were. They've got room for a ton of people in here. And this was their kit for the parents, the cell connection for the parents. We didn't have much time to talk Starlink, but they're well aware of Starlink, and they haven't figured out how to integrate that in. And I know we just had that session where we talked about Starlink. So even with all these differences, what is it we can learn? And so one is, to me, when we do tabling and we talk to people, we are telling stories a lot of times, and people are telling us their stories. They say, I lived through the Northridge earthquake, and they tell you your story, and they are the ones who are interested in preparedness. So storytelling has impact, and in Sendai, it is creating those lasting actions that people are taking. Naomi on the left-hand side was our host, and she was uphill. She was not in the plane of the tsunami, but her whole city was wiped out. She was stuck at the university for 5 days. She said she felt so hopeless. They did not know what to do. They were in their shelter. They didn't know what they could do. And a man who also lost children, he was feeling hopeless. He didn't know what to do. So he created this sign, and it's huge. It's just gigantic. And people helped him find the plywood and nail it together and paint it. And it says, "Hang in there, Ishiganomoki," which is the name of the city. And she said, that gave me hope. And over, when I see the storyboards that people have left on the museums, they said, that sign gives us hope. We know we can get through it together. So it's very small things that are going to make a difference in this. It's not how nice your boards are printed. It is that you're helping people and you are giving them hope that you will get through together. A couple of things that I just took away, I talked about the new food idea of the rice. These are cooking platforms. So it's a park. It serves as a bench today. You take off those wood things, and I couldn't take them off, but they had a picture of it. They're concrete rails, and you set your burners down in between. So now you've got a fireproof structure because it's concrete, and you can put 3 or 4 big, huge cooking pots there, and people can come up and what they really prefer people do is you put your rice in like a sachet and you drop it in the pot, and 15 minutes later you pull your sachet out and go eat your bowl of rice, and you have not wasted the water. So the water can be reused over and over and over and over again. So very clever new food ideas that we'll get into later. They had a huge emphasis on the children. Save the children. The children are first. And we saw that even in this one where older people would sacrifice themselves and try to get the children out. And people with elderly, obviously everybody was looking for it would help people up to the evacuation centers. And they had a very strong awareness of people with disabilities. They're not as prevalent as kind of like just walking around on the street, but they definitely had people with neurodiversity. They definitely had people in wheelchairs. I saw several sign displays about people who said, I was deaf. This was what it was like to go through this when I couldn't hear anything and I couldn't find out what was going on until my neighbor helped me. So really, really strong awareness of that. I think we have schools as future partners. I never thought of how, she was telling me about how they do the cooking. I'm going, I never thought if your school still has a cafeteria, they've got giant cooking vessels. I'm going to go start talking to my Gatewood school and go, do you guys still have a cafeteria? Can I borrow your pots on disaster day? Because they're not going to be cooking. So just many more things. And Ann and I have got a meeting set up with the school district to tell them what's going on in Japan. Mrs. Ochi is a strong believer of using the youth in the drills. She kind of has this natural gathering place because she just gets to go to the school and say, okay, we're going to do this. And the kids all participate because they want to keep that up. And so we just have to figure out the way to make that same kind of happiness for us. And then they had a gazillion disaster tips. Oh my God. I went to a museum and you could take pictures of these. These are, like I could take a QR code and it would upload to a little book for me. And I had 39 tips I could upload to my personal book and then go home and take care of them. But this was just a couple of examples of living, just reminding people you may live in your car, but you can do that. Bubble wrap is really good in a shelter, and so is newspaper. So they've got a lot of really good tips that we can take advantage of. So more on that, more on what they do. There were several parts of it that are kind of like more on the sociology. They have a lot of new apartments because so much land was destroyed and they're not going to allow rebuilding it. So people are having to be relocated into apartments, and the integration of those apartments into the neighborhood associations, how that works, or whether apartments create their own neighborhood association. Just more on the general preparedness work. Ham radio we spent a day. I'm just going to go do that. This is the day that Professor Taco took us to see the original Yagi antenna site, and he's hoping that he can come back in summer, July, to see how we do ham radio. So I need to pull together more lessons. This was just a super surface, probably more than 15 minutes talk, but I see there's more comments. What am I missing out there?
Not any questions, Cindy, that didn't get answered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Thank
you want
you,
to do the
Cindy. That
Seahawks?
was great. Really good. Really
was
well
it
done.
useful? I mean, would you guys like more of it, or was it like that was way too much? Okay.
No, that
More
was
to come.
really good.
Okay. I'm gonna pause on giving you slideshows for just a second. I'll jump down. See, I like how we've grouped it so I can just keep talking.
Okay.
WAsafe, I have an update for everybody. WAsafe is the program of building inspectors who are certified to do post-disaster building inspections. And we've done a video on them. We've had them in to speak before. Last year or the year before, they made a major change that I didn't catch. Previously, their registry on where people had to go to register and would be pulled up from to be volunteers was a database maintained in California. Well, the Washington State level Office of Emergency Management, Division of Emergency Management, has a program called WASERVE, volunteers serving, and WASERVE is now the official registry site for our local building inspectors. So one thing is we found that out. So they're back on the wagon of teaching classes and getting people certified. And Ann and I need to finish connecting the click that says, okay, we know you're going to get called up, but what are your people going to do for the couple of days before they get called up? Right. So we're more to come on that, but I just wanted to let the new hub captains know that, trying to track down the architects or structural engineers in your neighborhood who have a certification in that is a good thing. So, any questions on that, or I'm going to jump to the Seahawks.
I'm just thinking, Cindy, that I'm like, oh, I know there's some architects in my neighborhood, and I wonder if there's that way to, through the community, reach out to them and say, you should look at this thing.
Yep.
Yeah, check
I know.
this
I wish we
out.
could.
So, yeah, be good.
And then
All
I
right,
put the link in there, so if you do find someone, just send them straight to that, right? Okay, so this is a speed date also. ACS was asked to participate and be a radio support during the Blue Thunder Parade for our Super Bowl Seahawks. And so they went in, and I stole some of this from them. I took out a lot of the technical stuff. But what they were asked to do was get out in the field and give information back to the ACS about how is the parade going? Is it, moving? Is it slowing down? Do we have any issues? And then it was going to be, should the official city government communication system called PCERN go down, they were in place as backups. So when they put out the call for people to be ready to be down at a parade should they win, because this happened just a few days after the Super Bowl, they had 24 people ready to committed to deploy. They didn't have them all down in the EOC or on the grounds. They had some out in the at their own homes. So in the EOC, they had 6 people running the radio room, and they'd also set up some antenna equipment out on the outdoor deck there. They ran the net control. They took everything in voice reports. They also did some digital work. The EOC team downtown was responsible for updating their ArcGIS tracking map and then providing the summary reports into the staff who were interested in what's going on. Out on the field, they had 8 teams in, 16 folks in pairs, and they were located at where the fire department had set up the aid stations with 2 people off-site as just yet another backup. And so they were the ones passing in the voice, as well as people trying to use tracking devices for where is the parade. And so net control was started it, and then bookended it at the end. So they did their successes and challenges, because nothing goes untouched as perfect. They had repeaters that worked well. They had some really well-trained net control folks, and they got compliments on that. And so the EOC was very happy with how the voice and ArcGIS mapping was integrating. They did have a little bit of problem with it, but it was much better than previous test runs have done. And then they felt they were staffed right for in the EOC and out on the field. Interesting things that happened to them because they had high visibility chests on. You got all sorts of questions. And I remember that the year I went down and I saw people, if you had a vest on, you got asked where the porta potties were. So people had to be prepared for just kind of knowing what was going on in the area to be able to give, yes, the parade has started, or no, the parade's going to end. So just you weren't uninterrupted, and you had to kind of hold people off while you were trying to finish your transmission so that they could get that done before they could help people. So they just wanted, you can't prevent it. You just have to make people aware of it. They had to make a shift in the middle of it because the going in positions for situation awareness was give us things that are happening that are not normal, right? And so when people started climbing up on the pergola and people were climbing up light posts, floods of information came in about people climbing up stuff. So the OEM had to say, nope, too much, can't process it all, dial it up to if they fell off. If anybody falls off, we want to hear about that. So remember how we talk about you can't just send everything in because they get overwhelmed. You know, we go in with some fairly high levels of reporting and they de-escalate it. That's exactly what happened here is, too much. Now we just want to know if there's any real harm incidents. And there was some confusion with some of the radio groups that work for Seafair. So hang on, I can't quite read everything on my also noted because I have to keep moving people and things around here. They did bring in extra towers, and even with that, the cell phone system collapsed. It was better than the previous one, but it was still really spotty, and there was definitely problem areas noted based on where you were and what nodes were being used. Verizon turned out to be the more stable platform. Those of you who have Verizon, just out of curiosity. So some of the pictures. So we've got teams out in the field. We've got what goes on in the EOC. See how packed that is just for this Super Bowl parade? So just imagine in a real disaster. So that's the report.
Great. Thank you very much, Cindi. Any questions? I'll give Cindi a hand. Two great things. Any questions, comments from anybody? We have a minute for that. Jeff said in the tower or in the comments, having towers is not enough. The carriers also have to have routers and other infrastructure. And somebody said, awesome presentation. Okay, great. All right, no questions. And should we move on to the next item, which is about agenda creation for community meetings?
Yeah, I'm going to try. I've got really bad internet for some reason tonight. So
Okay.
nothing official for this, but I've been working with some of the hubs that are pulling their volunteers together and working on some of these projects, like the places to check on, vulnerable places to check on after a disaster. So I just kind of based on what I've been doing with them, I've been writing down more ideas, I guess, about things to discuss with your volunteers when you do pull them together. I don't have a whole lot more to say about that. Just that I'm gonna put something on paper and get it out to folks. If it'll help anybody, just think of good reasons to pull people together instead of just let's get together and talk about the hub, but actual doable projects that volunteers are engaged in, and you get something done and you move your whole group forward. So that's one piece of it. The second piece is I'm working with the Finney Hub, and Jim wasn't. Oh, Kurt, I see your hand up, I think.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yay. I was going to say our hub meetings have a particular structure where every meeting we have a presentation on personal preparedness and then a thing on hub level preparedness. So there's always a
Fabulous.
reason for people to come to meetings. Um,
Nice.
I just like to say to all the other hub captains here that we now have our hub meetings on Zoom because we have a couple of people who are having trouble coming into the meetings, and we would welcome any number of people who want to come via Zoom to listen to our presentations. Not that they're particularly fabulous, since it seems to be the Kurt show. Uh, but but we do that, and it's an evolved process for getting more people to come to meetings. So that's a suggestion.
Nice. Kurt, I'd love to see your agenda or kind of like your rhythm. Very
That's
cool.
it. I have one personal preparedness talk and one hub preparedness talk.
Nice. Nice. So the other thing I was going to mention, and I was hoping Jim was going to be online, but he is vacationing somewhere. Jim Durand in Finney. He did his skills fair last Sunday, Saturday. I can't even remember. Wasn't that long ago, but it was Sunday. Did his skills fair. From that, he identified what he is calling block emergency leaders. So kind of like Block Watch, but Block Watch captains have typically been more of the safety minded folks, more around let's keep an eye out for each other and bring out the Seattle Police Department to talk to us, that kind of stuff. So they're going a little bit different direction, and they're calling them block emergency leaders. Anyway, they want to gather names and send out little preparedness tidbits. I think their rhythm is going to be every 3 weeks. I think that's what they're aiming for. Anyway, so he found a bunch of folks during the skills fair that wanted to do this. He's bringing them back together on Saturday, April 4th at 10 a.m. at the Finney Neighborhood Association building. And he wanted me to say it's open to everybody. If you want to come hear how Jim and I and his volunteers are going to talk to these block leaders on, here's an example of the little piece of paper you put on your neighbor's doors. And, so just giving them as much guidance and as much support as we can so that their job as block emergency leaders is as easy as possible. So Jim's thing is he's got 2 volunteers that are going to feed information to this group of people for them to then feed it out to their neighbors. So kind of like what Kurt is doing, that little steady stream of preparedness info. All of their stuff is online, though. It's not, none of it's face to face. So any questions about that?
I just want to add for all the brand new hub captains, this is like a year 2 or 3 activity. These are mature hubs who are, now able to spread greater, so don't be writing down that you got to go organize your blocks.
Yeah. Thanks, Cindy. Good point. Any other questions?
I like, Dan, what you said about creating a list of ideas to talk about. I think that would be helpful to a lot of hubs. And I think like what Kurt and Jim are doing kind of fit under that as well. So I think those are great ideas. Yeah. All right. Any questions or comments? I don't see anything in the chat except I see Beverly said we call them cluster captains. And Beverly, you're in Laurelhurst. So that's what they call them instead of the block emergency leaders. Right. All right. We will move on to our last 2 things. We'll do sharing best practices. If anybody has anything they want to share, although I think Anne just shared a couple with us. And then we can do around the room for announcements or events. We start with best practices. Has any hubs or groups done anything recently that they would like to share with the group?
Is that anywhere?
Yeah, anyone. You jump in, Jody.
I have been working on these station packets in our box, and one of the things I've been doing is rewriting the guidelines so they're one page max and bullet points. So there's not so much text to wade through when you're in the middle of the disaster. Um, and I'm also going over everything in the packets. And I have a list of what should be in each packet so that every time we have a drill, we can check and make sure the packet still has what it needs to have in it and that it's organized. But I think that these guides, um, at this point, they're front and back of a page, which in the middle of an earthquake is probably not going to be read or much less remembered. So I'm working on a more bullet point consolidated approach. Over.
Great. Thanks, Jody. Kurt, and then I think there was someone else that had their hand up that I missed. So why don't we do Kurt next?
I just wanted to say quickly, Jody, we're working on the same stuff. Maybe we should collaborate.
Okay.
Um, if you could send, how do I get your email address?
It's jodytgrage@gmail.com. T is in Torsen.
Jody, what I might suggest is if you guys are using Google Drive, pick one of your folders, you know, the Ballard folder or the North Capitol Hill folder, and just set up a folder where you can exchange documents, and then you don't have to email stuff back and forth.
Okay. Remind me what hub you're with, Rick?
I'm with North Capitol Hill.
Oh, Kurt. Okay. All right. Pardon me. Okay.
And Jody, maybe you could put your email in the chat.
Okay, we'll do.
I'm sure Ann's got everybody's email and could share it if you were okay with that.
Sure. I'll put it in the chat.
You can also go in the master list.
Oh.
I know. You have to keep up. There's so many tools in there, right?
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I see Jeff, and then we'll do Beverly. Jeff?
I got the City of Seattle master address file and slurped it into my GIS program, QGIS, and came up with a list of 3,000 addresses in what I consider my part of the city. And if somebody wants me to do something similar for their area, I'm happy to do that. Just tell me what you think the limits of your area is. I can go slice out the subset, create a file for you, and then you can use that to make a mailing.
You know how much postage stamps are going up to? Holy cow.
They're a lot. Yeah.
Well, so
97 cents.
remember that you were talking earlier about things that you could get your hub membership to do, and that is to divvy up the area and go hand out the flyers by hand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And actually, we should probably support the Postal Service so long as it continues to exist, which might not be much longer.
That's a great idea. Thanks, Jeff. I like that. Let's see. Beverly was next, and then I see Jody has her hand up as well.
This is from Laurelhurst Hub. Our long-awaited GRMS repeater has been installed on top of the Villa Academy, which is the highest point in the neighborhood. The neighborhood's kind of hilly, and so the GRMS signals were not getting everywhere, but now we have a high point. And we are recontacting our hub responders. A lot of the hub responders are the same as our cluster captains, but if a person volunteers to be a hub responder, meaning that they will come to the hub in case of an emergency, they will get a free GRMS radio.
Can I explain to the new hub captains? Laurelhurst was part of a University of Washington study on community communications and resilience. And so there is a group that did a survey and is absorbing the work and the grant to put that repeater in for enabling better communications within their cluster captains.
And also there's an app that the University of Washington has developed that doesn't involve the internet for communication. Magic.
Great. Thanks. Jody, you're next.
Yes, at our the last of our monthly meetings, the Ballard Commons Hub, we were discussing outreach, and one of the things we realized is that our hub has about 20,000 people in it, and that's old data. That a lot of our people live in buildings. So we have a person who has a real estate friend, and we're going to get a list of buildings that have 100 or more people in them, and also buildings that have between 60 and 100 people in them. Because what we realized as we were discussing is it makes a big difference if you're outreaching to single family residents or big buildings. And because we have so many big buildings around us, we thought we would, cut to the chase and do those buildings first. So we're going to be developing outreach methods, but first we're going to see, how many there are, etc. So we've got some good ideas already, but it just occurred to me that other hubs maybe need to look at what their area actually looks like, because a building with 100 people in it is a lot different than doing 100 houses, for instance. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jody. We definitely have outreach as a theme. Any other things people would like to share? Okay, why don't we slide into our around the room announcements. We have some overlap with what I think we were talking about. We usually start with Northwest. Anybody in Northwest want to give an announcement of something upcoming?
And I will promote that I'm not going to be looking at the calendar, but if you're going to say something, you better make sure it gets in the calendar.
I was going to say that. Cindi said all these. You always say all these things have to get onto the calendar. What's the best way to do that, Cindi? All the dates.
There's a form. There's a Google form.
Google form. Okay, great. All right. Northwest, Jeff.
We are having a class in CPR with AES, and I forget what AES stands for, but it's an electronic thingy you put on someone, push a button, and it starts their heart. But automatic electronic stimulator. So we're having it April 9th at 6:30 at the Howler Lake Community Club. And the last time I looked, there were still 10 slots open.
Great. That would be a good one to get on the calendar.
It is on the calendar.
Okay, super. Anyone else in the Northwest? Okay, Northeast, Seattle.
Yeah, I had a chance to present the idea of hubs to a new group of people in my community and got pretty good response. So looking to build the team out here.
Great. I don't have anything to share at this point. I'm also in the Northeast. Anything from Laurelhurst or anyone else in the Northeast area? Okay. Move on to Central West.
Yep. The Magnolia Village Hub is planning to put together a standalone setup of our hub on August 8th. That's a week after Summerfest, where we will be also present with the Magnolia Community Council promoting emergency prep. But we'll also be promoting the fact that we try to get the community out to see what a hub is. So we'll open the box and set it all up by ourselves. So August 8th. Other than that, we're just doing fine here in Magnolia.
Okay,
That's all
great.
I'm-
Thanks, Bill. I see someone, Ann, put a few upcoming dates in the calendar. Household Prep, Saturday, May 9th at the Greenwood Library in the afternoon, and a Hub 101, Sunday, May 17th, 1 o'clock at the Bitter Lake Community Center. Thanks for sharing those, Ann. Pete, you also in Central West?
I think so. As a new
Okay.
hub member, I'm in Belltown at the Sculpture Park. So if I'm there, I'm just kind of rebuilding the hub and just took it over, but I'm working with the Belltown Community Council and Belltown United and these organizations to kind of build up membership. I have about 15 people on a new email list that I'm developing to bring into the fold, but looking for creative ways to build membership in the downtown Belltown area. So anyway, that's where I am.
Great, thank you. Jimena, you're up next.
Hi.
And player to be named later. Introduce yourself,
Fine.
please.
That's right.
We're a team.
That's right. We're at the our Lower Queen Anne area, and we also have another first aid, CPR, and AED class coming up on the 16th of May. So we still have some slots left there, and I can put our email address into the chat here.
Do you want me to put that on the calendar, you guys?
Yes.
That would be great.
Okay, so Anne's got the link to the Google form in the chat. So grab that and just fill it out, and then I just can blow it right into the calendar.
Perfect. We'll do that.
Great.
Super. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. And so the new people know sometimes we try to gather all the dates and any interesting things that are in the chat and a few items from the meeting and add them to the meeting agenda that then kind of becomes a set of meeting notes. And then the link to the recording is also there. So you will have access to some of this information in the future. Great. I think then we go to Central Core.
I don't think we have any. Oh no, Eastlake. So Eastlake is in a rebuild. Anne is having to step down, so she's going back to the Eastlake Community Council to retool there. And then the West Edge hub, which was our one hub downtown, has closed. The hub captain moved. We talked to the Downtown Residents Association, and they are going to, similarly to what Jody was talking about, they're going to go to a building by building approach. And so they've got, they have those huge condo towers. And so they've got like 6 or 7 of those who meet and have started talking about how they will talk preparedness within their buildings.
Great. Thanks, Cindy. Central East.
This is Mark from Madison Valley. We have a community workshop on April 7th at 7 p.m. where we're going to be exploring the places to check concept in Madison Valley. And we're going to generalize it a little bit more to explore proactive scouting in the area after a disaster. So be somewhat applicable to the Valley and the businesses and the groups there, but I think other people in the area might find it interesting also.
Can you repeat the date again for me, Mark?
Sure. April 7th.
April 7th, and it's a community workshop.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else in the Central East area?
Yeah, this is Katrina from Madison Park. We also on August 8th will be doing a setup and takedown drill. We found that really helpful last year. So I'm not sure, Cindy, if it's on the calendar, but I did get the Google form so I can submit it if needed.
Did you already submit?
I don't know if Dana or Sarah may have.
We'll go look at the calendar first. And if it's not there, then send it in.
Will do.
Okay.
And Katrina, can you tell me what hub you're in?
Madison Park.
Madison Park. Okay, great.
Okay, I raised my hand. Now I forgot. No, I know. Cal Anderson is going to be the host position for the starting of a disaster bike ride on July 25th. So there's no details in there, but do mark that because we can do a lot of advertising to our biking communities, and you guys in Central East. There may be a concept that they ride from hub location to hub location. So stay tuned for more coming out of that. And because it's being planned by some folks in the academic world, I find they don't get information out really far in advance. So we're going to try and, get it so that you have plenty of time. If you're being asked to sponsor a hub station, you have time to get that up and volunteers coordinated.
I just want to add that I helped support the one they did in West Seattle and there were a lot of people that participated and people were really interested. The one learning I would say is don't have your first stop be a place where people can stop and get ice cream. I kind of sabotaged their timeline.
That's your last stop. Great. Thanks, Erica. Southwest.
Oh, I'll keep talking. We've got multiple brand new people here. And like I said, April 8th, the West Seattle Hub captains are going to get together to plan out what we came out of a Hub Basics class where we had 49 people attend, standing room only, and everybody expressed interest in learn more about hubs, learn more about preparedness, learn more about what the city does. So we're putting together our summer programming. But we know we've got a skills fair that's not on the calendar yet because I don't know the hours, but in May we'll be doing a skills fair. We'll be part of the drill. We might be in the West Seattle Parade. I'm springing that one on them early, but having several classes so that people in West Seattle, there seems to be a lot of energy around that this year.
And that would be a general West Seattle thing. Yeah, okay. Anyone else from that area? Okay, how about Southeast?
Oh, there's Rachel put in Southeast, the Beacon Hill Food Forest was awarded their grant.
Great.
Their big opening will be July 19th, and they're already starting to do outreach tables too. So,
okay, super.
The other one I don't see on is Mount Baker, and they've got 3 events coming up. May 3rd, they're going to do a community household preparedness. June 14th is their Hub 101, and their grand opening is July 12th. You can tell I have you all written on a big whiteboard in front of me there. So they've made a lot of progress. They've got a great team going. They actually have started talking to the high school about how to use youth already.
Super. All right. Any last thoughts from anyone in the meeting? And then we'll check in with Cindi and Ann once more before we wrap up. No. Okay. Cindi, Ann, any comments?
Fabulous turnout tonight. Fantastic. And when you look
nice
at the
energy.
calendar, and when you look at the calendar, because we have a lot of events that are private because people haven't said, we're officially published. I'm going, oh my God, I'm exhausted. It's great. It's fantastic.
Great. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to hang on for a minute, Ann, so I can capture the stuff from the chat and a few other things. Good night, everyone. Good to see you.
Good night.
Take care.
Good job,
Bye-bye.
everybody.